if you look up the story, there's all kinds of other little elements in it. But here's one, which is, well, look, sex with yourself is kind of okay, but really not quite as good as sex with another person, right? And the thought is, well, when you form this couple, you've got the sex outlet taken care of, right? So now you have sex with them and they have sex with you, and that big need that we have to have sex with another person is kind of now satisfied. So the thought is, there's this nice fitting together that also takes care of one disrupting element in our lives, namely our sexual desires, which now have found a nice, and not just that, but as I would say, a stable outlet. So we don't have to worry about tomorrow. It's already part of the parcel. And that's quite attractive, I think, for a lot of people. Yeah?
Yeah, I think that's probably closer to the point, but it's like closer to the reality, but I would certainly not call that love. Is if your understanding of like your relationship, and if you like, the understanding of relationship is that it's designed to, at a distance, create satisfaction from someone who like merely provides like satisfaction for your desires. Like this is like, I'll say this is a maxim because it's fun, but like, love begins when desire ends.
Yeah.
If the question is desire, then you're just seeing someone as a collection of symbols that you can get.
Well, hold on to your thought. Just back down the train of that thought for a second. So let's suppose that one little part of this diamond, this is the sex part, right? So suppose you're a Freudian, right? Just for a second. So just have a model, right? So Freud thinks, well, you see the little part of that thing? That makes the diamond. You know, the rest is just window dressing around the fact that it's genital satisfaction that's driving the machine. But we don't like to say that because it's sort of a little crude. Like, you know what I really want you for is, could we that not very romantic, it's not a good dating technique either. So, you know, we cover it up, right? We build a little chrysalis around it. And in this case, it happens to be a diamond-shaped chrysalis. And in fact, we take that shape very seriously. But really, it's that's doing the work. Now, I'm not saying that's true. I think that what we want to make sure is that we don't find ourselves, when we talk about love, telling the kinds of stories about it that we tell to our beloveds, because we want to hide from them the awful truth, or even from ourselves, right? So sometimes, just as all these people are, they're seduced into telling a story about love that will sound good to all those people around. They're not going to say an unpleasant truth, right? And sometimes that's the kind of story we want to tell ourselves, too. We don't want to actually say, well, I'm in it for the sex. And that's, of course, not true that for us, as we act, that's all that it is for us. But nonetheless, that's the thing that's doing the driving force. So it might be this. Aristophanes appeals to us because we do want to stably and reliably satisfy our sexual desires, and one good way to do that is to be in a loving relationship with another person who wants to have sex with you. And it's not that the sex is the main part of the relationship, right? That's what it's all about. It's rather that when we want to explain our need for the other, we want to do it by appeal to a sexual desire, even though, which this seems to be the truth. If sex is okay in a relationship, it's not that important. But if it's not okay, it's very important. And that's what most people report. I mean, so people report sexual dissatisfaction as a major reason for breakup in relationships. Then that suggests something, which is that, well, the sex is important. Right. So that'd be a way to kind of put your thought together with one of the things that appeals to us as something like this. But notice that there's a flip side, right? So, right, which is, well, boredom again, right? Because reliable, routinizable, reassuring, always available sex is really not the most exciting kind of sex. So one of the things that happens is, as another problem, is, you know, the 5-year itch. Couples tend to drift apart, look for other sexual partners, because the sort of monoculture, sexual monoculture of a monogamous relationship gets tedious unless people are massively inventive, right? Which they typically aren't, right? So, in a way, that's the problem, right? The problem is that when we see the return of the pattern, right? Well, it's the same pattern. There's excitement that goes along with the non-closure, non-safety risk, and there's the other, you know, which is reassuring and comforting, but it isn't cost-free, right? It's not as if and that's why I think the notion of the sphere is an attractive one, right? It says you can take care of these disruptive aspects of yourself by forming a larger whole within which they are stably and reliably satisfied. So you don't have to worry about your sexual desires disrupting your life, because now they've been domesticated and made part of your life. But when you do that, there's another side. The side is that when they're domesticated, they stop being savage, and they stop being exciting, and they stop being new and inventive, and they stop being all kinds of other things that actually are good parts of our sexual lives. Indeed, they're a good part of our lives generally. So this is not to say that there isn't some, as you were, I'm terrible about it. I don't ever even try to learn the names of people in class because I can't. I can't remember the names of my colleagues. So it isn't that I don't like you and I don't recognize you. It's just that, you know, unless you've registered about 82 times with me, I can't do it. So you.
Yes.
What you said was, well, isn't there some kind of balance, right? So the thought is, you do want excitement, but you also want a certain amount of security. You want, right? You want there to be disruptions, but reestablishing of things. So maybe what we need is a model, and we're going to get this a little bit with Diotima. We have to make all this dynamic. It's not about, I've got a, you know, sort of little shaped, diamond-shaped piece missing, and you're diamond-shaped, and then I'll be a sphere. It's rather that these spheres keep breaking apart and need to be put back together again. They aren't just there forever. Right? So, you know, the story when we need to tell is that good couples aren't couples that are like spheres. They're couples that, when they argue, break apart, and disrupt the order and chaos, find ways to put it together better. So it's not just like this, right? This is a bad model. A couple that goes sexually tired of one another does nothing about it, but looks for adventurous relationships outside, and that's their way of satisfying their needs, right? They are not, it seems to me, as good as a couple who finds that they can talk openly about this, and then comes together to find a way of satisfying, which might well be that they agree to have relationships with other people. But they're not threatening their relationship with each other by doing that, whereas on the first model, they are. Right? Because they're secretly hiving off, furtively satisfying a desire, and not telling the other person, and therefore not dealing with the ways in which these things can come to enrich our relationships, make them better, because now we're not insecure about that anymore. We know we can deal with it. So disruptions and recreations are just as important. In fact, they're better. Nobody would want to be a dog. Can you imagine? I mean, just think about it for a while. Didn't God create the world because he was bored? Like, you know, I know everything, I can do everything, I've seen everything, but that just sounds like a recipe for terminal boredom. Then he says, okay, let me make a soap opera, and I'll watch it, maybe that'll turn me on a bit. And he made us, so here we all are, right, going on, and he said, look at that. Yeah. Okay. All right, so next time, we're going to look at Socrates on Wednesday.